Every crisis has a moment when what's inside the room stops matching what's outside it. Not through a press conference, not through an official statement, through the spaces between people. I'm Anne-Marie Vanden Hurk. For 30 years, I've been in those rooms, and I've seen why organizations that do everything right still lose control of the outcome. This is episode 4 of the first 20 minutes. Let's start the clock. Minute 12. The room is full, everyone is moving, and nobody is working from the same version of events. Not because anyone is uninformed, because the situation is still forming, and each function is interpreting it through their own lens, at their own pace, with the information they have access to in that moment. Security sees one version, legal sees another. Communications is working off something slightly different. Leadership is getting summaries of all three. And here's what happens when those versions don't align. Misalignment doesn't announce itself. It seeps in. Not through press conferences or public statements, through the quieter channels. Someone on the response team mentions something to a colleague who isn't in the room. A draft gets forwarded one step further than intended. A briefing note gets printed and left somewhere. A hallway conversation gets overheard. A Slack message gets screenshotted. Nobody broke protocol. Nobody was careless. Nobody intended for anything to move. But information under pressure finds every gap in the structure. And by the time you realize the internal view isn't aligned, it's already outside the room. That's minute 12. And that's what makes it different from everything that came before. In minute 3, the risk was delay. In minute 7, the risk was the permission loop. In minute 10, the risk was choosing by default between two risk perspectives. In minute 12, the risk is invisible until it isn't. Because you're not watching for a leak. You're watching the situation. You're managing the response. You're briefing leadership. And somewhere in the spaces between all of that, a version of reality that wasn't agreed upon just became someone else's understanding of what's happened. Here's the specific mechanism. Someone gets briefed, an executive, a board member, a senior stakeholder, with one version of the situation. That person, acting in good faith, mentions something to someone outside the response structure. Not a statement, not a press release, just a conversation. Just what they understood to be true. And now there are two versions of reality in circulation. The one inside the room, and the one that just left it. This is not a communications failure. It's a structure failure. Because the question that needed to be answered before minute 12, before the briefings, before the drafts, before the updates started moving, is this. Which version of reality is the official one, and who has the authority to declare it? Not who contributes to it, not who reviews it, who owns it, who says, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and this is the position we are taking right now. Without that, every briefing becomes a variation. Every update introduces drift, and drift under pressure becomes visible. Your internal reality has to be singular before it can be coherent externally. Because if the people inside your organization are carrying different versions of the same event, those versions will find their way out, not through negligence, through the normal motion of people doing their jobs under pressure. Misalignment doesn't announce itself, it seeps. In the next episode, minute 15, you've made it this far. Decisions have been made, positions have been taken, Something has moved externally. Now the question changes entirely from what do we do to how do we hold? If you want to see where your internal alignment breaks down before minute 12 exposes it, start with the diagnostic. Link below.